join me, we are going to meet Bruce, the CEO of this e-fulfillment center. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, nice to see you.
Thanks for having us today. I'm very nice to meet you.
Yeah, welcome to Quiet. And this is our very first pick, which happened to be a guitar pick because we have a sense of humor. So.
Well, thank you so much for having us. Tell us a little about yourself and about the company.
Sure. Well, my name is Bruce Welty, and I'm the CEO of Quiet Logistics. And Quiet Logistics is a third-party fulfillment company, which means we take goods on consignment from our customers, and when they get an e-commerce order, they electronically forward it to us, and we pick, pack, and ship it.
Who are your customers?
Mostly premium apparel brands. They're mostly digitally native brands, so these are companies that didn't have a retail presence, didn't have a store presence, and they built their business around web-based e-commerce.
Can you kind of walk me through the life of an item?
Most of our clients send us their stuff straight from the manufacturer. So if you walked out in the warehouse today, you'd see boxes from Malaysia and Vietnam and Turkey. The movement of goods is U-shaped, so it comes in down there, goes in inventory, and then comes back out and goes out here. So the far doors are receiving and the near doors are shipping. We receive them on cases on a pallet. So we then open those boxes and we go through a process of determining whether or not they were accurately shipped and if they're of quality and in the right quantities and so on. It's got these sizes in it. Mm-hmm. This is box 14 of 14. So this is what we get. And then our job is to open up this box, take it out, and we'll say, is it in fact one of those sizes? And that process is called receiving. We have to find a PO, make sure that, that the product was actually ordered by our client.
How many items are these?
We have probably 2 million items in here, 2.5 million items.
Wow.
Probably 250,000 different SKUs. And then once the product has been through the receiving process, we put it into inventory. We call that put away. And then it basically sits there awaiting orders. And we actually individually store every product. So our warehouse looks like a big store on steroids. It's lots of shelves, lots of single units. Everything in there is pickable, meaning you could order any item we have and we could actually find it and put it in a bin for you. Once we've received the order and the customer says, hey, I want one of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, we'll then build the order and then we'll put it in a box and ship it off to you. We use robots here. We've built our business around the use of robots, and they perform very specified tasks for us. But what happens now is the robot effectively knows where it has to go to stop in front of every pick for every order that it's fulfilling. And people are sort of disengaged from the robots. They just sort of stay in the aisles, and when they see a robot looking for an item, they go over and the robot says, I want this item and this quantity in this bin, so the person will perform the pick. There's a lot of discussion around robots being able to actually do the picking part, the grasping of the item, and our view is that that's a challenging problem that we don't want to have to solve. That's the way the robots work, and they take away a lot of the drudgery of this job. It's very easy to use them. Training is very quick, and you don't walk as far, and your productivity doubles. So it's a very effective use of a technology.
So is the person who's doing the picking stationed in sort of one place and then the robots move to them?
It actually works a little bit differently. When we first envisioned it, we were going to have what we call zoned picking. So I would say to somebody, you are in charge of these 5 aisles, and you just stay in those 5 aisles all day long. And then robots come and go from those aisles. But what we found over time was that with our algorithms, we can actually get the robots to stay close to each other. So the robots tend to cluster together. We put workers in those clusters. And then over time, those clusters break and form new clusters. Then the workers break into smaller groups and they travel. And these clusters kind of blossom and grow and shrink as the work changes. And if people and the robots follow the same pattern through the warehouse, the same walking pattern, it sort of works out that every robot and every person is always very busy. We patented a bunch of things around this. It's a really cool algorithm, and it works beautifully. You know, we always think in terms of nature. There's a bunch of things that work like this, like schooling fish and starlings, called murmuration of starlings. And those all have very simple algorithms, and it says, your job is to keep exactly this distance away from your neighbor. So we built this around some of those concepts. Like, in fact, we originally called the robot company Locust. Ultimately, we dropped the T and call it Locust. Originally in our minds, it was like locusts, because the robots actually invade the field like a swarm of locusts, and they land on the closest pick, and somebody comes along and essentially does the pick, and then the robot moves to the next closest pick, and then by the time they get to the end, all the picks are done. It's exactly the way locusts invade a field.
And so the robots are not only sort of mobile bins, but they're also sort of directing and optimizing workflow on the floor. Is that the right understanding?
Yeah, exactly. They're not just navigating bins around. They're directing workflow, and they're directing workers. We have only just started this process of optimization. I think we could be continuing to optimize this thing for decades, and it will just get smarter and smarter. And there's just so many ways, so many different opportunities for optimizing the work.
Does demand change over time in this kind of business? Is Cyber Monday something that changes things on the work floor, or is it pretty steady?
Is there a lot of variability in our workload? Yes, there is. It actually varies by time of day of week, by month. We have big cycles around seasonal peaks, around things like back to school and Cyber Week.
Day to day, what are the things that can come up or the problems that need to be solved?
Well, every day brings a new set of issues. A lot of them are driven by weather and what might be happening in the news. I remember one day Princess Kate wore a blue dress from one of our customers, and within a few minutes that blue dress was sold out across every store and every warehouse. We can't anticipate those kinds of things. We try our best, but there's quite a lot of what I would call external events that just occur, especially in e-commerce, because it's a global phenomenon. So we have a lot of products here, many, many millions of units of inventory that are available for orders, e-commerce orders.
With that kind of layout, when the products come in, do you have to think about slotting or where to put them? Is that part of the decision making?
You know, it used to be. It used to be a big part of what we did, slotting and reslotting, was just try to bring the products that have high velocity closer to the sort of cashier, and the slower ones would be in the back. But what's happened now with the robots is we've actually found a way around that by having the robots do intelligent moving around the business. So what we try to do is organize our picks so that they're all clustered together, and then our workers and the robots cluster around those picks. So we've kind of eliminated this slotting problem.
And then is there an interface that when you're managing the facility you see, is there summary statistics for the day, performance of the robot, performance of the workers that come from that system?
Yeah, but it's not at the end of the day, it's in real time. And we monitor it very diligently. We have a lot of eyes on this. The screens, the productivity screens are available on every device, so I have it on my phone. I used to have it on my dashboard on my car. Everybody has the ability to see these dashboards, and we put them up out in the warehouse so that everybody can understand how the whole system is performing. We can also see down to the individual. We also track individual performance against the mean and against each other to rank people according to who's achieving the highest rate, the next highest rate, and so on. There's a lot going on out there.
Well, thank you so much for letting us into the facility to see how it works and for sharing your insights with us. It's going to mean a lot to our learners, I know it.
Great, well, enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the Director of Third-Party Operations for RBS. RBS, Retail Business Services, is the services portion of Hold Delays USA. So you visited a facility that works, it's a AD USA owned distribution transportation facility. It works in service for the Hannaford banner in upstate New York. It services about 100 stores, about 150,000 cases worth of output a day, and employs somewhere in the neighborhood of about 400 people.
Roughly speaking, what are the products that come in and out of this building?
So this building is multi-temperature. So all of grocery or center store items, non-perishable items, are shipped through here, as well as produce, meats, dairy, not quite sub-zero, so not quite cold enough to ice cream.
This feels cold enough for ice cream to me.
We ship to about 98 stores. That includes stores in New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, I think a couple stores in New Hampshire.
I know this is a manual facility. Could you describe what the people who work here are doing and how the voice recognition technology helps them do that?
The most labor-intensive portion of the building, where most of the amount of the cost goes for labor, is in the selection for shipping. The easiest way to explain would say, we receive by a pallet, but you have to ship one case at a time. And the actual selection process is probably the most amount of the man hours. That's done with a voice vocal-act headset system. So what that is rather than having as an associate builds a pallet, rather than having a sheet of paper that tells them all the items to kind of pick, there's a headset there that talks to the system. So as an associate drives their jack, it gives them an identifying number on a given select slot that they're going by, and it will tell them to pick X amount of a product. So let's say 10 boxes of that cereal. Once he picks it, he tells the voice system that he's picked it, and it moves him on to the next.
Just take that dot and you just put it together. See how it turned blue?
Yep.
And then they would log in with their badge numbers. That's what you do. Home zone, whatever zone you're in, and then you can say next job, and it'll give you the next job that comes in our system.
You log in with their voice?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
On top of just the picking the items, it does a couple other things. So it knows where all the items are in the building, and it creates an expected time for an associate to finish that workload. So they may receive a pallet that'll tell them is going to take them 58 minutes to complete. Each pallet will be different depending on travel time, volume, pick density, and those things. At the end of the day, week, period, it gives the associate a performance metric. So if a pallet was supposed to take an hour and you did it in 50 minutes, you're 10 minutes ahead of schedule. And we can help associates understand if they're doing really well. Some of our top associates might be at 120, 130%. Some maybe are 70, 80 and need additional help. It also builds in for some things that we'll see to make sure around ergonomics. So it builds in for fatigue. So that that pallet that may be an hour-long assignment as a first assignment a day could be an hour and 15 minutes at the end of the day, with the assumption that associate would be tired at the end of the day.
Could you tell us how the system captures employee performance, and as a manager, what you can do with that data that the system captures?
Sure. So the system recognizes as a person gets an assignment to build 2 pallets. It tells them, and we'll know exactly how long that will take. And it takes a couple factors into account: travel time, density, those type of items. So the system is calculating and saying, hey, this given assignment for you should maybe take an hour. That helps us to understand, as we look at associates, are they really productive or are they having difficulties? In which case we can take advantage of the people that are productive in a way of use them as trainers or get them to help educate others. Or people that are having a difficult time, we can get them additional help to get where they need to be. We can also use it for a couple different programs that we have to incentivize the work. And we actually have 2 of them here for selection. One of them would be any additional hours we compensate for. So an example would be if an associate worked for 10 hours but did 11 hours worth of work, we buy that hour back from the associate. So if you put 50 hours worth of work for a 40-hour week, there's 10 extra hours there that we'll pay you for. Some associates go the other way around, and if you're scheduled for a 10-hour shift and you're able to produce 10 hours worth of work in 7, we'll pay you for your full 10 hours worth of work. And it helps us a lot with attrition in this market. There's a lot of competition. Selectors are difficult to get. It's difficult work. So anything we can do to get an associate more engaged in work and kind of prioritize, that work for them and what they need helps us to retain as many people as possible.
Some people would look at that challenge and say, go fully automated, put robots in this system. Is that the right solution here?
Here, if you have a fully manual process, you always have flexibility in your output. So what I mean by that is we can always offer double time. We can hire more. If people want to take advantage of overtime and those things, we can bring more manual labor into the building. Once you introduce automation, that section of your operation has a fixed constraint. And regardless of kind of what you do, it can process X amount of boxes per hour. So for a just-in-time system, that can be impacted by, weather, excessive forecast, big sales around a holiday. It can be challenging to move out of a manual process to automation, especially when it impacts your on-shelf availability. Grocery stores don't have much storage in the back rooms. Everything that's demanded of us every day is needed to go on the shelves. If we don't ship it, we'll potentially lose that sales.
How often do you deliver to your partner stores?
We are anywhere from 5 to 7 days a week on fresh. Non-perishable goods, we tend to be probably anywhere from 3 to 5.
Could you walk us through the life of a representative product?
So we have receiving windows that have a capacity, and we schedule out, we open up our total capacity, and we can say on any given day that we can receive 2,000 pallets. So if we have a non-perishable receiving window of 2,000 pallets, let's say it's cereal is on one of the trucks, we'll probably usually already have it in the yard. We'll bring that to the docks. We have a full receiving team. We'll take that cereal off. It'll be assigned reserve locations inside the building. There's a whole group of associates that manage all that, put it all away. Like most buildings, we can't ship and receive at the same time. And what I mean by that is we'll receive all of those 2,000 pallets, close down and justify our inventory inside the building, so we'll know exactly how much cereal we have. Then we will open up a shipping window. Everything that was required from retail will ship before the end of that shift. Once that shift is done, we'll close down our shipping window and we'll open up another receiving window and start replenishing into the building.
Thinking about the layout of your facility, our learners will have seen some things about moving fast-moving items to convenient locations and slower-moving items to less convenient locations. Does temperature change? Do temperature requirements change the necessary layout of a facility compared to something that is maybe non-perishable?
Yeah, it does. So in a couple different ways. So there's volume that can impact where we slot or where we locate the item inside the building. So maybe as an example, believe it or not, clementines are a massive seller around the holidays. Everyone buys clementines around Christmas time. So maybe in the middle of the summer, the clementines that we hold in the building may be the farthest away from the shipping door because they're not moving quite that much. When it comes around Christmas time, we actually create new slotting and we store them directly near the doors because the volume of it is so high. So proximity to the point of shipping is dictated a little bit by that volume and can be impacted seasonally by buying trends. The other thing is the hard layout of the building and the temperatures of the rooms can limit your capacity of the DCs. So we may find ourselves in a room that stores meat at that temperature with a lot of availability to put more products in, but because of the temperature, we may find that produce, we may not have enough room necessarily for the current buying trends.
Could you tell us a little bit about how some of the trends in consumer behavior impact the decisions that you make day to day here?
One of the faster growing SKU counts or item count in the DCs right now is produce. So I think you would think that they're not necessarily making new types of tomatoes, but they really are. If you go back 20 years ago, your choice of the different vegetables that you may or may not see in a grocery store are far different than what you can see right now. So as consumers look for more unique items, differentiating, for their current taste, it increases the amount of volume and potentially, the size of the rooms that we would need to store it.
Sort of nuts and bolts, how does it change it? Do you end up with less slots, more slots, different slots?
You have to create slots. So if you imagine maybe 10 years ago, a slot may, have a vertical height of 3 feet. So you could stock an entire pallet there that would come off, which was great. As you add more and more items, you may only have a slot that can only be 1.5 feet now because we need 2 slots to select off of. So you have to start changing racking in order to accommodate. At some point, you can only make your pallets so small and so many select slots where you need more aisles. So one of the functions of a distribution center is how to continue to optimize the space that you have as far as you possibly can without a large-scale capital improvement.
How often do you find over the course of 1 year that you need to ramp up capacity to deal with some external event?
I would say, yeah, as bad as it sounds, I mean, probably a couple, at least 2 to 3 times per month, right? So there's big variation in forecast. There's weather events. There's seasonality around holidays. There's systems outage. So unfortunately, there's a lot of technology in the building as it is, and at times it goes down. That can be power outages.
What is it about your business that you think causes that need for flexibility?
For perishable retail, we see our demand for center store, for non-perishable goods. We get it at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and the associates start selecting at about 7:30 in the morning. But we see it in the building that morning of, about an hour before we start working with it. And then every bit of it needs to be shipped before the end. And then we'll see the next one the next day. So that kind of lack of visibility and need for flexibility in the moment, I think, is maybe what impacts a little bit more of that manual flexibility than introducing just a fixed constraint.
Is there an example of a challenge that you felt this center overcame while you've been here?
So I absolutely love the MicroMasters courses. It was one of my favorite things to do, and it was really challenging, and I was doing well with it. And then I had a fire in one of my facilities. Nobody was hurt. That's why I smile. It was a difficult time. So we had to double perishable output of this facility within 24 hours and sustain it probably for a good 3 to 4 months. And then the general channel and logistics. So we're now shipping to a given window. It's a 1 hour window for delivery time. So a store in Augusta, Maine may be expecting to get a delivery at noon. And it used to come from an hour away in Portland. Now it has to come from 5 hours away in New York. So how do you reverse engineer the logistics to make sure that we can still hold up those windows? It's really challenging. So, and I did not do it alone. So I had a really good team, big group of people, and we all worked through it together. That was about a 3-month event, and it came about a month before the final, so I had to drop out. My thoughts are I'm going to start in again. Hopefully on the next time around. I'm hoping here near the end of the year or the beginning of next year. With thoughts that starting the class won't start another fire. But
Last bits of wisdom for the world?
That's all the wisdom I have. I have no more. I appreciate the opportunity. This has been really fun. I really do enjoy that.
Thank you so much.